Hi, thanks for joining me today for Let's Be Creative with LBC. My name is Tracy Sawyer, and today's episode is basically part 2 of the glue making process that we did a while back. In that episode, we used cornstarch, distilled vinegar, salt, and hot water, and a saucepan on a cooktop to make our own homemade glue. I ended up with a jar of homemade glue and a Ziploc bag of homemade glue. And I will tell you that the stuff, I was kind of curious how long this would last. It said it would last a couple of months. It has lasted longer in the jar than it did in the Ziploc bag, but I also found the glue inside the Ziploc bag was easier for me to knead the bag to get out any lumps. So, and then after using, have used some over time, I put all of it into this jar. So if you're going to make some, a jar big enough to hold all of your glue is probably your best bet, but a Ziploc bag does work, which I proved. Okay, so today we are going to use our homemade glue to make a bowl. We will use newspaper, you'll need a balloon, and a foam brush is really helpful. You can use your fingers. I did that on one of my projects, but a foam brush is nice if you have one. My friend Jose tells me that a product called a homemade paste or glue called engrudo is used to make piñatas. I don't know that this is exactly the same, but I think this homemade glue could be used to make a piñata. So today we are going to make a bowl with this, and let's see how it goes. It should be interesting. All right, so let's roll up our sleeves and get started. We've got our homemade glue, foam brush, balloon, and scissors and newspaper, and we're ready to go. First, I cut strips of paper. Then I used a Sharpie to draw the circumference on the balloon to give me a guideline for layering paper. If you don't do this, no worries, you can always trim the bowl once it's dry. Apply some glue, then paper, glue, then paper. Glue, then paper, moving all the way around the balloon. You'll want 3 to 4 layers by the time you're finished. Also, I put a small cup under my balloon so that I could use 2 hands, and it helped a lot. Glue is a type of adhesive, and it spans the entire history of humans. There are 3 types of glue: plant-based, animal-based, and synthetic. Early humans used glue made from tree bark, probably birch tree bark, to make primitive tools. They would glue 2 rocks together or attach a stone to a piece of wood to use as a hammer. Glues were also made from hides, hooves, and tissue from animals. Animal-based glues were found to be stronger, they lasted longer, and they were also used for a lot of purposes. 2 lesser-known uses of glue were it was used to increase the durability of papyrus scrolls and to make furniture. In fact, archaeologists found furniture made from using glue in King Tut's tomb, including King Tut's casket. Plant and animal-based glues were used from everything from repairing ceramic vessels, making furniture, sealing wood on boats, when mixed with tar, making tools, making instruments, musical instruments. It is interesting to realize that while the process to make glue became more sophisticated over time, the materials used remained the same for hundreds of years. Rubber-based glues were introduced in the 1800s, and in the 1930s, synthetic glues were developed. Today, there is a type of glue, pretty much all synthetic, for every type of purpose. By now, you should check to see if there is any balloon showing on your balloon. If yes, add another layer. You can also add another layer if your bowl dries later. You can add wet to dry, and it works out just fine. For the last portion of this, I was inspired by the bird bath out my window and the balloon I dropped onto a bunch of paper strips. So I ended up getting some seed pods from the liquid amber tree that had fallen on the ground outside. I dipped the seed pods into the glue and then rolled them in the birdseed to create little birdie lollipops. I'm pretty excited how that turned out, and I can't wait to put them outside. Okay, that was fun. So I have waited for my newspaper and glue to dry, and I made 3 bowls. I have 2 to pop the balloons in today to see how they turn out. So I have a little bowl, I have a medium-sized bowl, and I have a larger bowl. And of course, the way you get the different size bowls is by blowing up your balloons to different sizes. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pop this one. Fingers crossed that this works. Let's Let's go, balloon. So I let the air out of the balloon and I'm just pulling it off the side of the bowl. It almost looks like a little bit of an egg cup. Once the bowl is done, I can trim it. I could put designs in it if I wanted to, like by, I don't know, putting a crisscross design. Maybe I'll try that when you're not watching. But there is one bowl that could hold something. And then let's do the other bowl. I hope this works. I don't have one more that's big like this and ready to go. Ooh, there we go. So you can see the pink on the inside, and then I'm going to pull out the pink lining so that the balloon is not in the bowl. So I was thinking about, whenever I make something, I really like a sense of utility. I think that I just enjoy things better when I'm thinking about the purposes that I have in mind for the use, for what I can use them for. So I actually also like to garden, and I thought these would be perfect seed starters. It's all organic material and newspaper, so I could put dirt in these and put my seeds, and I could start my seeds from these little cups and then transfer them to the ground when they're ready, and it won't hurt the ground. It also occurred to me, for bigger ones, I have some flowers that have come up in places that I don't want them, so I can transplant a flower, put it into this little bowl, and then transplant it somewhere else. And again, it will disintegrate in the soil, and it won't hurt the environment at all because it's all natural materials. So then I had the idea, as I was making the bigger balloon, the pink balloon, and I was rolling, I dropped the balloon onto my pile of news strips that I was using to make this that you just saw, and I realized, hey, I have another idea. So I borrowed some birdseed from my neighbor. I grabbed some seed pods from our liquid amber tree, and I dropped the seed pod into the glue mixture and then rolled it into birdseed. And I ended up with all these little bird pops, birdseed pops that I can put out in my yard and hang for them so that the birds can eat the birdseed. I'm not a huge fan of bird feeders just because I don't like the critters that accompany them a lot of times, but these will be a lot of fun. And of course I have to share some with my neighbor who happened to have birdseed when I needed it. So that's it. You can make whatever you want out of your balloon and homemade glue and maybe a foam brush. I'm going to use mine, I think, in my garden to make some of my transplants and start my seedlings. But you can use them for whatever you want. You could put change, you could put jewelry, you could put your car keys. I don't know. Might be a really fun gift for someone for a Mother's Day or a birthday. I don't know. I always say sky's the limit, and I believe it when it comes to homemade glue and balloons and newsprint. So make yours and let me know how it turns out. I'd love to hear what you make or see what you make, and I look forward to seeing it. Meanwhile, tune in next time for Let's Be Creative with LBC. Thanks so much for joining me.